Hey guys, Dylan again with another video so soon, right? Um, but I had a few minutes to spare, so I figured I'd give you guys a little extra. Um, Today I want to talk about your points of aim on your bow, or rather your target rather, and we'll touch a little bit on your technique and stuff. Um, there's 20 plus things that go into your shooting sequence. I try to break it down to just three. Because if you try to go through all 20, in my opinion, that's just a little much. So we're just going to focus on three things that I think are the most important. Um, the first one being locking your shoulder into the pocket. Okay, and what I mean by that is if you cant your elbow out, like you naturally almost want to do that. But I'm telling you not to do that. I want you to cant it in. You'll feel the flex in your front shoulder here. And the idea is to have all that tension when you're pulled back on your bow more in line with your body. Okay, so if I cant my elbow out like I want to naturally, I'm using a lot more muscle here. Versus if I put it in the pocket, I'm using a little bit of muscle here, but I can still put all that tension and pressure more in line with my body. I think it takes a little less energy then. Okay. And then the second thing I like to make sure I'm doing consistently is making sure that my peep is lined up with my sight the same way every time. Some of you guys with older bows or older strings might get what's called peep rotation, where your peep sight just kind of spins one way or the other. But usually you can fix it with just a little pinch and roll. And if it's a huge problem and it's really consistent twisting of your peep, I would take it into your local shop. Or if you're like me and you know a guy who's crazy about archery and knows all the ins and outs of it, I just take it to him for a case of beer and he fixes me up. And then lastly, for the last third point I want to make, is your anchor point. Okay. Everyone's a little different. What I like to do is just barely kiss my nose to the string. Okay. If you do too much pressure, you're going to push your string a little more than you think. That might kick your arrow one way or another when you release. Okay. I'm a nose guy. Some guys are, cheek. Some guys have what's called a kisser button on here, and they just take it right to the corner of their mouth every time. That way you can't be wrong, right? But I've kind of got it figured out for myself. I like just the tip of my nose just touching the string, okay, when I have my peep lined up with my pin. So today, you guys are actually gonna see how well I can shoot. We got a target 20 yards down range. It's got 3 tiny pieces of black tape, 2 really tiny ones that are maybe the size of a pea. And again, the target's at 20 yards. A couple pieces of tape are a little bigger. I'm a big believer of the concept of aiming small, you miss small. Okay, so if I aim for that little pea-sized piece of tape at 20 yards, and 9 times out of 10 I don't actually hit the tape, but I'm a pea off or so every other time, right? So the idea is you aim on a really small point, you're going to miss by a small amount. But hey, it takes practice, right? So we're going to get a look at the target, and you guys are actually going to see where the arrows land this time. So. Well, that was round one. Maybe not my best stuff right away, but I was excited for the video, so maybe I rushed myself a little bit. So maybe we'll do one more and see if we can't group them a little tighter to that tape. Well, guys, that's about all I got for you guys today. One last bit of technique before I go here is your grip. I'm a believer that everyone's grip is a little different in terms of where on the palm they like having their bow. Me personally, I almost like to do like a cat's paw. Okay, so all the strap of this grip here is in the meat of my thumb. Okay, I think that's where you get the most stability. If you go too much into your palm, I find that you tend to lose a little control in left and right. Okay, you guys can see it's pretty loose. Versus if I really get into the meat of my thumb, it's a little stiffer for me to do that. It's a little harder for the body to do it, to twitch left and right and torque left or right. Okay, I like having it really on the fat part of my thumb. And again, the same idea with putting the shoulder in the pocket. It keeps your hand in line with your wrist versus, or rather, it puts all the tension in line with your wrist up to your shoulder, through your chest. When you got the shoulder in the pocket and you got your grip nice and strong. Okay, I like to pinch these two fingers just for safety reasons. You know, I'm kind of a klutz sometimes. I'd hate to drop the bow, right? And who knows what'll happen then, right? A lot of guys like to have their hand open. I just like having these two, at least these two pinched. But sometimes I will just give it a little kissing with the fingers, but nothing more than that. You don't want to be white knuckling it, you know, because then you really start torquing left and right. So that's my last little tidbit for archery technique, so to speak. I'm no expert. This is just a couple pieces of wisdom that were passed on to me by some really good shooters. Figured I'd pass it on to you guys. Hope you liked the video.